if you've ever played on Hypixel, then you're probably familiar with the fact that if you're AFK for long enough, eventually Hypixel will kick you off of their lobby and put you in a special AFK server. Now inside of this AFK server, you will suddenly lose your skin. You will also be in hardcore for some reason, and you're stuck in this single room, and as soon as you move, you will automatically be taken back to the lobby you were previously in. And at first it might seem a bit counterintuitive, because obviously Hypixel doesn't want you on their lobby if you're AFK, it only costs them extra precious resources, so they kick you instead, but then instead of kicking you from their network, they just connect you to another Minecraft server, where you can then just sit. Doesn't that also cost a whole bunch of resources then? Why would they even do that? Well, what if I told you that AFK server Hypixel sent you to is not actually a Minecraft server, and everything you see there is actually fake? I'm gonna go one step further. What if I told you that AFK server doesn't even have a world? No, I'm not kidding. Something else I should tell you is that we're currently so extremely close to hitting 100,000 subscribers here on the Casasora channel. According to my analytics, 86.1% of my daily viewers are not actually subscribed, which is a huge percentage. So there's a big chance you might think you are subscribed, but you may not actually be in reality. So if you could just double check, I would appreciate it a lot. Here you can see the server files of one of those AFK servers, and like you can see, there is no world whatsoever. This is what we call a Limbo server, and I'm currently on one. So everything you see here right now is not actually real. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but also not really. This server doesn't have a world whatsoever. Everything you see right now is simply a schematic, which the server reads and then kind of projects on you. This means that I could go in and just destroy a bunch of stuff here, because I'm currently in game mode creative, but then as soon as I would leave the server and rejoin, you will see that everything is back to normal, because I might have destroyed some stuff, but the schematic didn't change. Now, because Limbo servers don't have any world and everything you see is simply a kind of projection of a schematic, they are really efficient. They are regularly used by big Minecraft servers if saving resources and having a lot of players in one server efficiently matters. For example, if you need to gather a bunch of players before an event starts, then let that lobby server where they all gather be a Limbo. And of course, the example I showed earlier in this video, the AFK server. Using a Limbo server for that is very smart. And because of that, they can have hundreds, if not thousands of players all AFK in their network, and it will cost them very little resources. They don't want to lose you as a player, so they won't just disconnect you. So instead, if you're AFK, Hypixel moves you to a part of their server where you take up close to no resources whatsoever, so that as soon as you become active again, you can just rejoin the lobby and continue playing. It is very smart. Now, there are multiple different types of Limbo servers you can choose from. The one I will be using in this video is made by Low HP, and you can download it from either GitHub or Spigot, but if you want to use another Limbo server, then be my guest. Anyway, I will leave a link to this Spigot page in the description down below. After that, make sure to upload it to wherever you host your Minecraft server, and then run it, and after that it will create all of these files. Now, you will notice that there is no world folder. Again, this server truly has no world. Everything you see when you're on the server is information that is being read from this file over here, spawn.schem. In other words, it is a schematic file. A schematic file that you could create with, for example, world edit. Now, spawn.schematic is one that comes default with this server. So this, what you see right here, is simply the default spawn. And these servers are kind of funky. So it's always the same time. Time doesn't tick whatsoever, because how could it? There is no world. I'm currently in game mode creative, but I cannot fly. I'm not able to fly whatsoever. I can destroy blocks because I'm in creative though, so that is something. But if I middle mouse click on a block, then I won't actually get it. I can actually place stuff down. Look at that. But again, just like with me destroying stuff, as soon as I disconnect and reconnect, it will all be gone again. Oh, and what's also fun is if you jump in the void, if you fall like this, you will fall forever. You will not stop falling. You also can't see your coordinates because there are no coordinates, because there is no world. I guess how you can see that this is a bit funky, but it can be extremely useful. So after setting up a Limbo server, something which we can for example do is connect it to a velocity network. If you don't know how to make a velocity network, I have a bunch of tutorials on how to do that here on the channel, so do check those out. I will leave one linked as a card. But what you can do is inside of the velocity.toml file of your proxy is add a main server or like your regular survival server, and then also add the Limbo. And here where you specify the priority list, you can make it so that the velocity server by default connects you to the main server, but let's say the main server goes offline or it is not online as soon as you attempt to join, it will then send you over to the Limbo. So using this setup, as soon as I join my velocity proxy, you can see that I will just be connected to a regular Minecraft survival server. This is just regular survival. I can just go ahead and play and I can do whatever I want here on this 100% natural Minecraft server. But let's say this server needs to restart or it crashes or something else happens which forces us out of this server, like for example a /stop command, and then bam, we are now in the Limbo. So in this case, we're basically using the Limbo as a fallback server. The server we will be connected to as soon as the main one goes down. And you could, for example, put a little sign here which says to rejoin the main server, type /server main. Because if we type /server, which is a velocity command, then now you can see we can choose between the Limbo and the main server. So when we do /server main, bam, we're connected back. There we go again. It is extremely useful and a really awesome fallback server to have, because normally if you have like a very big survival server and you want a fallback server just to make sure that everyone doesn't just get kicked off of your network, then that fallback server needs to be pretty buffed, because you know it needs to support the same amount of players that were originally also playing on your survival server. But now with the Limbo you can just have a fallback place and it doesn't have to be that powerful at all to support a bunch of players. Now I found this plugin which is pretty cool. It is called the Velocity Limbo Handler. And what it does is it automatically reconnects people to your main server after they have been kicked and put on your Limbo. So it is a simple yet powerful velocity proxy plugin that manages player fallback handling when a server becomes unavailable. Instead of leaving players stranded in the Limbo, it systematically reconnects them to their last known server or a designated lobby. Very useful. So we can simply go ahead and download this one and then put it into the plugins folder of your velocity proxy server. So not your Limbo server or any regular Minecraft server, just your proxy. There we go. Give it a restart, and then after rebooting it will generate a folder for you which will then house a config.yml file, and then over here you want to make sure that the Limbo name is correct. So my Limbo server is actually called Limbo, so I don't have to change anything here. But if your Limbo server has another name within the velocity.toml file, then you need to change that here. You can also change the direct connect server if that is something which you want to change. I don't have a server called lobby, I do have one called main, so I'm gonna just put that one here. And other than that, I think these settings are fine by default. So let's get onto the velocity network. There we go, we're now on the main server. Let's shut it down by typing /stop. There we go. You will see a message that appears in chat which says you were sent to the Limbo. You will be reconnected when the system allows. And there we go. There we go, we're back. You can even see your place in the queue. So if there are 100 players, for example, that are all being disconnected from the main server at the same time, then it will automatically queue players just to make sure the main server doesn't get overloaded, and then it will just slowly start connecting players back until eventually the Limbo is empty again. It is so super cool, and in my opinion one of the best ways to use Limbo servers. But of course you can also use it as an AFK server like Hypixel does, if that is something which you would like to do. You can use, for example, the Bungie AFK plugin. Of course, a link to this one can also be found in the description down below. Simply click on download, and after that, for our setup at least, you want to make sure you get the velocity.jar and the tracking.jar file. Now the velocity.jar we're of course gonna upload to the plugins folder of our proxy server, and then inside of the plugins folder of our main server that players will actually be playing on, we're gonna upload the tracking.jar file. If we would use this plugin without the network, then we could just get the spigot.jar file. But in our case, as we are using a network, we're simply gonna upload the tracking.jar here, so we only have to configure the velocity plugin, and the paper server will basically just keep track back of whatever we configure there. So that's a lot more convenient. Now, unfortunately, there is no Bungie AFK plugin for the Limbo server. You might have noticed that the Limbo server does actually have a plugins folder, but it doesn't support the Bucket API or Velocity API or anything like that. All of the plugins made for this Limbo server have to be specifically made for this Limbo server. So regular plugins for other platforms will not work. If you're curious as to what type of plugins those would be, there are 2 official plugins currently. Via Limbo is one of them, which is basically a Via version plugin, but then for this Limbo server. And then there is also Floodgate Limbo, which is basically an implementation of Geyser MC's Floodgate, but then for the Limbo server. Maybe more official plugins will start popping up eventually, but these are the 2 that are out there right now. Now, it's not the end of the world that we can't install Bungie AFK on the Limbo server, but it does mean there is one piece of functionality which we don't have, and I will show you what it is in a little bit. First, we're gonna go back to the server directory of the Velocity server, and here, after restarting, there's now a Bungie AFK folder, which we can open up, and in there, we can find the config.yml file. And over here, you want to configure a few things, like the warning delay, the AFK delay, and then the action delay. So after how many seconds should a player receive a warning that they have to move, otherwise they're gonna be marked AFK. Do whatever you want, I'm gonna set this to 10 seconds. Then after how many seconds should a player be marked as AFK? For the purpose of this video, I'm gonna do 20 seconds. And then action delay. So even after a player is AFK, they will not be kicked or moved to another server straight away. They will still take a few seconds, something which again you can completely customize. I'm gonna set this to 30 seconds. And then over here where it says action, you want to change the kick action to a connect action. So the kick action will just throw you off of the network altogether. We don't want that. We simply want our AFK players to go to the Limbo, so we're gonna have a connect action. And then down here you need to specify the AFK server's name. So it's AFK by default, we're gonna change this to Limbo. This should match with the name you set inside of the velocity.toml file. After that, simply save the content, make sure to reboot both the proxy and the main server once more, and after that, let's join the network and see if it actually works. So here we go, we're currently on the main server. I'm just gonna stand completely still, not gonna move at all, and there we go, the warning just appeared. You haven't moved for a while, show the server that you're still there by moving briefly. And now, you are AFK and will be connected to an AFK server in 10 seconds. And if we wait 10 more seconds, then there we go, we are now in the Limbo. Currently, I'm just moving here. I'm walking around. I'm just having a good time in the Limbo. Now, because we can't install the Bungie AFK plugin on the Limbo server, the server can now also not keep track of if we're active again, yes or no. In other words, I can walk around here and do whatever, but the server will still mark us as AFK. It doesn't automatically take you back to the main server, even if you move again, because it basically just doesn't know that we're moving again. There's no tracking inside of the Limbo. So to go back, we would just have to type /server main, which will then take us back to the main server. And now if we move here again, the Bungie AFK plugin will mark us active again. And there we go. Not a single second were we disconnected from the network, and it will now not cost the server a bunch of precious resources if you're connected while AFK. And that is gonna be it for today. Do make sure to subscribe to my channel, join my Discord. Thank you so much, channel members. And then I will see you in the next one. Bye bye, see you later, bye bye!